guys, I'm back again and I'm here to do a video that was asked by Randy from Randy's World 7, I think it is. Hey Randy, hey girl. She wanted me to do a video on books from the last quarter of 2024. Well, I didn't really get a chance to do that, and I wasn't really hankering for a bunch of books anyway in the last quarter of 2024. So I decided to do books that are coming out at the beginning of 2025, particularly January and February, that I'm interested in. So I have quite the list here. I didn't realize so many books were coming out that are interesting. This is the Read So Lit version, so in case you just want to know. So we're going to get started. There's quite a few on my list. So I've got my iPad here so I can, know where I am. Okay, so the first book on the list. Oh, and excuse the situation here, but it's dark. I don't know. It's what? 2:15 in the afternoon, and I got to put all the lights on. Otherwise, I'll be sitting in the dark. Anyway. All right, so the first book on my list is called Been Wrong So Long It Feels Like Right, a King Oliver novel. So this is a new one by Walter Mosley, and it's coming out in January, so specifically 28th of January 2025. So this is what it says. I don't know if this might be the beginning of a series, because it's a King Oliver novel, or maybe there's already a King Oliver in one of his series. I don't know. But it says, in the latest from Mystery Master Walter Mosley, a family member's terminal illness leads P.I. Joe King Oliver to the investigation of his tracking down his long-lost father. And meanwhile, a new case pits King's professional responsibility against his own moral code. So that's all I have. You got the cover here. Sounds interesting. It's Walter Mosley, for God's sake. Who doesn't want to read a new Walter Mosley? Okay, who doesn't want to read one? So I will be looking out for that. Next on my list, which I think everybody knows about this book, and that's Isaac's Song by Daniel Black. Now, if you have read Don't Cry for Me, this is like a response to Don't Cry for Me. It's called Isaac's Song. It says, the beloved author of Don't Cry for Me and Perfect Peace, fantastic Perfect Peace, returns with a poignant, emotionally exuberant novel about a young queer Black man finding his voice in 1980 Chicago, a novel of family, forgiveness, and perseverance. For fans of the great believers and On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, Isaac is at a crossroads in his young life. Growing up in Missouri, the son of a caustic, hard-driving father, he was conditioned to suppress his artistic pursuits and physical desires, notions that didn't align with a traditional view of masculinity. But now in late 80s Chicago, Isaac has finally carved out a life of his own. He is sensitive and tenderhearted and has built up the courage to seek out a community. Yet just as he begins to embrace who he is, two social catalysts, the AIDS crisis and Rodney King's attack, collectively extinguish his hard-earned joy. So there you have it. This one is probably going to be really, really good. I have not yet read Don't Cry for Me, but I definitely am, interested in getting that read next year. So it would be great to follow up with this one. Isaac's Song is expected to be published 14th of January, 2025. So if you have not read Perfect Peace, I highly, highly recommend you read that book. It is so, so good. That's a 5-star perfect book. Definitely read that one. I'll be looking for Isaac's Song, but first I'm going to read Don't Cry for Me. Okay. The next book on my list is Harlem Rhapsody by Everybody knows Victoria Christopher Murray. So this one has a beautiful cover. I am really excited about this one. It says The Extraordinary Story of Jesse Redmond Fawcett. I love Jesse Redmond Fawcett's writing. Whose exhilarating world of friends, rivals, and passions all combined to create the magic that was the Harlem Renaissance. In 1919, as civil and social unrest grips the country, there is a little corner of America, a place called Harlem, where something special is stirring. Here, the new Negro is rising, and Black pride is evident everywhere in music, theater, fashion, and the arts. And there on the stage, in the center of this renaissance, is Jesse Redmond Fawcett, the new literary editor of the preeminent Negro magazine, The Crisis. This is going to be, okay, this is giving me everything. So Harlem Rhapsody is being released on the 4th of February, 2025. I cannot wait for this one. I have a feeling this one is going to be very, very good. Okay, the next book I have on my list is called Good Dirt. Okay, the title is a little bit, by Charmaine Wilkerson. So this is also a family historical fiction family novel. It says, when 10-year-old Ebby Freeman heard the gunshot, time stopped. And when she saw her brother Baz lying on the floor surrounded by the shattered pieces of a centuries-old jar, life as Ebby knew it shattered as well. The crime was never solved, and because the Freemans were one of the only Black families in a particularly well-to-do enclave of New England, the case has had an enduring voyeuristic pull for the public. The last thing the Freemans want is another media frenzy splashing their family across the papers. But when Ebby's high-profile romance falls apart without any explanation, that's exactly what they get. Now, I have a feeling this one is going to be good. I don't know. Just what they said in that description makes me, think, ooh, there's a lot more going on here than just a typical storyline. So I think it could be interesting. Good Dirt. All right. Coming out January 28th, 2025. Okay. Now the next book on my list, I've seen it everywhere. People have been talking about it. I think a few people have gotten maybe arcs of this particular book. It's The Life of Herod the Great by Zora Neale Hurston. I will not personally be going for this one because I have some of her older work that I have not read just yet that I should have been read, but can't read everything all the time. So I think this one is going to be interesting. So it says, in the 1950s, after the publication of Moses, Man of the Mountains, Zora Neale Hurston set out to write a novel that would set the record straight about one of history's most malignant figures. If Hurston's Moses challenges the Old Testament version of the ancient Hebrew leader by suggesting that Moses was actually an Egyptian, Hurston's Herod challenges the New Testament version of the tyrant who supposedly ordered the deaths of many children in order to save the child Christ, as recorded in the book of Matthew, but suggesting that he was actually a forerunner of Christ. From the peaks of triumph to the depths of human misery, the historical Herod seemed to have been singled out by some deity and especially endowed to attract the zigzag lightning of fate. The intimate friend of both Mark Antony and Julius Caesar, Herod lived in the times of war and expansion, where political assassinations and bribery were commonplace as the old world gave way to the new. Breaking this legacy out of a single paragraph in the Bible and into the vivid, breath-breathing world he lived in, Hurston's unfinished manuscript brings a full person with an adventurous life into view for the first time. So, yeah, this one is, I think, is going to be interesting. I surely will not get to it next year for sure because I really want to read, some of the other ones that I have not read yet. But I will be anxious to really hear what other people have to say about Life of Herod the Great. It should be very interesting. All right. The next book is called Junie, and it's by Aaron Crosby Eckstein. I've never heard of this author before. I don't think this is a debut. I think she's written other stuff. It says it has some historical fiction, and I see Civil War, fantasy, adult fiction, and a little bit of magical realism. So, I don't know. We're going to see how this is because me and magical realism don't really get along like that. Okay, so it says 16 years old and enslaved since she was born, Junie has spent her life on Bellarine plantation in Alabama, cooking and cleaning alongside her family and tending to the white master's daughter, Violet. Her daydreams are filled with poetry and faraway worlds, while she spends her nights secretly roaming through the forest, consumed with grief over the sudden death of her older sister, Minnie. When wealthy guests arrive from New Orleans, hinting at marriage for Violet and upending Junie's life, she commits a desperate act, one that rouses Minnie's spirit from the grave, tethered to this world unless Junie can free her. She enlists the aid of Caleb, the guest coachman, and their friendship soon becomes something more. Yet as long-held truths begin to crumble, she realizes Bellarine is harboring dark and horrifying secrets that can no longer be ignored. Isha, this one looks like it's going to be very good. It comes out February 4th, 2025. And yeah, I'm really interested in checking this one out. Okay, next on my list, I have The Rules of Fortune by Danielle Prescott. Prescott or Prescott? I don't know. Prescott, I guess. This is a novel that I don't think this is a debut. Is it a debut? I don't think it is a debut. I don't think it's a debut, but it has a very interesting cover. Wow, wow, wow. It says, on their Martha's Vineyard estate, the Carter family prepares to celebrate. But when the billionaire patriarch dies right before his 70th birthday, the media is quick to question the future of the multi-industry conglomerate that makes the Carters living legends. Amid the succession crisis, his daughter Kennedy is questioning her father's past. Kennedy is an aspiring filmmaker, and the documentary she planned to present at her father's party begins an inquest into the life of a man she never really knew. A thoughtful outlier in an elite and fiercely guarded dynasty, she's not interested in keeping up the appearances that define her impeccably poised mother or in the capitalist games her ruthless brother plays. Kennedy wants only to understand the origins of their empire and the lethally ambitious man behind it. That understanding comes at a cost. This sounds really, really good. This one sounds really, really good. Because it's written on the cover, The Rules of Fortune, Danielle Prescott, and it says she was author of Token Black Girl. So I don't know Token Black Girl. I didn't read Token Black Girl. I had never heard of Token Black Girl. So if you have read Token Black Girl, can you comment below and tell me what Token Black Girl was like? But this one sounds interesting. I would get down with this one. So this one is being released on the 1st of February, 2025. Okay, the next book on my list, I have been waiting for this one. because I was hearing all about this one. I heard about it the beginning of 2024, this one. This one is called Casualties of Truth, and it's by Lauren Francis Sharma. You probably know her. She wrote Book of Little Acts and Till the Well Runs Dry. I think she wrote both of those. Now, this book is being released 11th of February 2025. And this is what it says. I'm not going to read all of it, of course, but so it says, Prudence Wright seems to have a loving husband, Davis, a spacious home in Washington, D.C., and the past glories of a successful career at McKinsey, which now enables her to dedicate her life to her autistic son, Roland. When she and Davis head out for dinner with one of Davis's new colleagues on a stormy summer evening filled with startling and unwelcome interruptions, Prudence has little reason to think that certain details of her history might arise sometime between cocktails and the appetizer course. Yet, when Davis's colleague turns out to be Matshidiso, a man from Prudence's past, she is transported back to the formative months she spent as a law student in South Africa in 1996. As an intern at a Johannesburg law firm, Prudence attended sessions of the Truth and Reconciliation hearings, which uncovered the many horrors and human rights abuses of the apartheid state, and which fundamentally shaped her sense of righteousness and justice. But Prudence experienced personal horrors in South Africa as well. Ones she long resolved to keep carefully hidden, and ones which Matshidiso threatens now to expose. When Matshidiso finally reveals the real reason behind his sudden appearance, he will force Prudence to examine her most deeply held beliefs and to excavate inner reserves of resilience and strength. Ooh, this one sounds heavy. But I think it's going to be good because Lauren Francis Sharma has a way of turning a story. Like she does the thing. All right, let's see. Next on my list is another writer I have never heard of before. And the book is called The New Internationals. And it's by David Wright Faladay. It's being released on the 21st of January, 2025. And okay, so it says, a stunning historical novel of post-war Paris that interweaves a coming-of-age story, a cross-cultural romance, and a portrait of the international youth at a definitive moment in contemporary history. So it says, Paris, 1947. The city recovering from the war is brimming with youth international students, African, Indo-Chinese, Arab, as well as American and French, balancing on the precipice of a new world. Cecile Rosenbaum, a young Jewish girl, quickly developing her own intellectual and political ideals, meets Minette, a feisty French-born girl of Senegalese descent, on the bus to a communist youth conference. There she meets and begins to fall in love with Seb, who arrived from West Africa with his sister at just 7 years old. As Seb toils for the exams that will permit him to study French architecture at the Parisian University Beaux-Arts, he also begins to dig into his roots in Dahomey, the West African kingdom where he came from. Cecile struggles at her job at the Louvre, clashes with her white Jewish family, and reckons with her memories of a childhood under Nazi occupation and her fierce dedication to her new political ideologies. Seb and Cecile find themselves entangled, And along the course of the novel, they choose and find each other again. In the corners of jazz clubs, at a Louis Armstrong concert, in the square where Seb's exam scores will be posted, and finally at a protest that turns shockingly violent. Now, I like the way this sounds, and I love this cover. I mean, this cover is saying a lot. So, yeah, I'm kind of interested in reading this one. The next book on my list is People of Means, and it's by Nancy Johnson. Now, I've never heard of Nancy Johnson either. This one, I have not got a clue if it's a debut or not. Not really sure. But it is classed as historical fiction. So it says, no, this is not a debut. She wrote a book called The Kindest Lie, which now I think that title rings a bell, but I didn't read it. Okay, so this says, two women, two pivotal moments, one dream for justice and equality. It's 1959, and Frida Gilroy has just arrived at Nashville's Fisk University, eager to begin her studies and uphold the tradition of Black excellence instilled in her by her parents back home in Chicago. Coming from an upper middle class lifestyle where Black and white people live together in relative harmony, Frida is surprised to discover the menace of racism down south. When a chance encounter with an intriguing young man draws her into the burgeoning civil rights movement, Frida finds herself caught between two worlds and two loves and must decide how much she's willing to sacrifice in the name of justice, equality, and the advancement of her people. This sounds really good as well. It sounds very promising. And it's ticking the boxes for me. I mean, I wouldn't mind. Now, its release date is the 11th of February, 2025. All right. The next book I have on my list is Red Clay by Charles B. Fancher. Never heard of him. This as well is classed as historical fiction. So it says, in 1943, when a frail old white woman shows up in Red Clay, Alabama at the home of a Black former slave, on the morning following his funeral, his family hardly knows what to expect after she utters the words, "A lifetime ago, my family owned yours." Adelaide Parker has a story to tell, one of ambition, betrayal, violence, and redemption that shaped both the fate of her family and that of the late Felix H. Parker. But there are gaps in her knowledge, and she's come to Red Clay seeking answers from a family with whom she shares a name and a history that neither knows in full. In an epic saga that takes us from Red Clay to Paris, to the Côte d'Azur and New Orleans, human frailties are pushed to their limits as secrets are exposed and the line between good and evil becomes ever more difficult to discern. Red Clay is a tale that deftly lays bare the ugliness of slavery, the uncertainty of the final months of the Civil War, the optimism of Reconstruction, and the pain and frustration of Jim Crow. I really like the way this one sounds. I mean, this one looks like it's coming on strong. So, yes, Red Clay. All right, next on my list, I have The Sable Cloak by Gail Melissa Grant. Now, it describes the novel as historical fiction, and it says it's an eye-opening, atmospheric novel set in the South and Midwest during the time of Jim Crow that reveals a little-known part of American pre-civil rights history or Black intrigue and power. So, it says, in the South, justice is swift and absolute. Jordan Sable, a prosperous undertaker turned political boss, has controlled the black vote in St. Louis for decades. Sarah, his equally formidable wife, runs the renowned funeral establishment that put the Sable name on the map. Agile and pragmatic, she is known for the careful, deliberate way in which she powders, dresses, and embalms the community's dead. Together in a true partnership built on trust, mutual respect, and a shared vision for a better future, they have pushed through several obstacles in order to create a legacy for their children through a business that serves as a source of unity and stability for their friends and neighbors. When tragedy burst their carefully constructed empire of dignity and safety, the family rallies around an unconventional solution, but at what cost? This sounds extremely mysterious to me. I would be interested to read this one as well. Oh, child, these are a lot of good books in here. All right, the next book is Let Us March On by Shara Moon. Okay, now this one is also historical fiction. So it says, devoted wife, White House maid, reluctant activist. A stirring novel inspired by the life of an unsung heroine and real-life crusader, Lizzie McDuffie, who as a maid in FDR's White House spearheaded the civil rights movement of her time. This sounds really good. I'm just a college-educated Southerner with a passion for books. My husband says I'm too bold, too sharp, too unrelenting. Others say I helped spearhead the civil rights movement of our time. President Roosevelt says I'm too spunky and spirited for my own good. Who am I? I am Elizabeth Lizzie McDuffie. And this is my story. When Lizzie McDuffie, maid to Eleanor and Franklin D. Roosevelt, boldly proclaimed herself FDR's Secretary on Colored People's Affairs, she became more than just a maid. She became the president's eyes and ears into the Black community. After joining the White House to work alongside her husband, FDR's personal valet, Lizzie managed to become completely indispensable to the Roosevelt family. This is going to be good too. Wow, wow, wow. I love the cover too. The cover is very inspiring. All right. Next on my list, I have A Different Hurricane by H. Nigel Thompson. I have never heard of H. Nigel Thompson before, but this book is classified as contemporary LGBTQ. So it is being released the 11th of February, and this is what it says. Gordon and Alan, boys from a peasant background, grow up in neighboring villages in tiny, violently homophobic St. Vincent and vow to be lifelong lovers in a secret relationship. Both complete their university studies in Montreal and London, respectively, where LGBTQ folk are tolerated. But their secret lives come at the expense of others, notably Gordon's wife, Maureen, who is the first one to be irreparably harmed. Maureen has confided her painful secrets to an accusatory diary. And it is now up to Gordon to keep that diary from local media and the unforgiving eyes of the authorities, or he and Alan would be the next victims of this beautiful and hidebound island. Ay, 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 ay. Diaries, Roman diaries. That's always a bad sign. Now, I don't know about this one. It could go either way. It could be actually really interesting, or it could have a problem with the storyline. I'm not so sure, but it sounds interesting. Okay. Last but not least, I have Payback by Penny Micklebury. Penny Micklebury. Don't know Penny Micklebury. But it says World War II ended less than 10 years ago and the Korean War less than one. But no one has recovered from wartime privations, especially the colored soldiers who fought a ruthless enemy on foreign lands, expecting to return home with all the rights and privileges of American citizenship. But those rights and privileges remain few and far between, and Micklebury's cast of characters find themselves reflecting on the Harlem they call they are educated and unschooled, wealthy and desperately poor, committed to improving circumstances for Negroes and abjectly hopeless. They create a family of and for themselves, women, men, children, gays, and the proudly self-named. They commit themselves to helping create a world to benefit their people based on hard work, artistic expression, and faith in the community. They have learned to live in the larger world by two guiding, each one teaches one, and harm to all, because in this neighborhood, payback will always be swift and painful. Wow, 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 wow. This one is coming out 18th of February, 2025, Payback. This is interesting too, this concept. Wow. I think this might be a debut novel too. So that is it. Those are all of the books that I could see that might be interesting, and they are all slotted to be released in January and February of 2025. So comment below and let me know if any of these, are enticing you to want to go and pick them up, or are you just going to be a backlist reader because you just want to be sure, or you're going to just wait to hear what people have to say about them? Oh, there's a couple of these I think I'll be picking up. But yeah, I would love to pick them all up, but that's not possible. That's not going to happen. But yeah, let's talk about it. Comment below and let me know what you think. Alrighty, I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye.